Here we are. That's my friend the chickadee speaking to us this morning. Today on Not Church. Before I begin, let me actually check my sound levels. If somebody's over there in Facebook. Well, I guess we're still starting in Facebook. Hold on a second. Waiting for live video. Use camera. Why hasn't that switched over? Start screen. Not sure why it's not showing up in Facebook. Oh, I'm live. What do you know? Huh. Hi, everybody. Good to see that. I'm assuming everybody's here. Start live video. There we go. 3, 2, 1. All right, we're going to begin again. It's my friend the chickadee, the black-capped chickadee, singing for us this morning. Today, on Not Church, on Suffering and Light, sayings of mystical Jesus, the code switcher, a little reading, a little riffing. This is Not Church on Sunday, August 2nd, 2020. I'm Reverend Peter Panagore, MDiv. That means Masters of Divinity. For those of you who wondered, who asked, MDiv, Masters of Divinity. But please, call me Peter. I pass my hat to you. Thanks. peterpanagore.love. Pastoral, spiritual, mystical, and recovery from near-death experience counseling available. And now, on Suffering and Light. My yoke is easy. The teaching that I ask you to accept is easy. The load I give you to carry is light. Jesus, Matthew 11:30. This teaching is super simple. It's a super simple metaphor. Jesus uses the word light at two levels. The physical level, as in the opposite of heavy, it weighs nothing, it's easy. Yokes harnessed oxen to carts to haul weights of cargo, like an engine and a truck. Carts transported goods. Yokes aimed the energy. You are the ox. Where do you aim your energy? The cart you haul weighs on you. Suffering, the code switching Jesus gives suffering. Suffering weighs on you. Suffering weighs on you. Code switching Jesus gives the word light a double meaning, a solid physical world meaning and a transcendental, immaterial meaning for your spirituality. He offers you the light itself. This is the second, deeper meaning. Remember, you're the light of the world. So let the light be in you, and you will have a connection to the energy source that will help you bear the weights of life. The weights remain, but the light makes the burden lighter. It makes them weigh less. It illuminates them. You want security and ease from the suffering in your life. When you accept the yoke, when you accept the teaching, you'll discover on your own the value of polishing your inner lens, of learning to learn, of learning to listen in prayer rather than speak. The language of spirituality is silence. In silence, we hear the whispers of light that can become a torrent as we empty our vessels by ourselves. By keeping the eye of our soul on the divine. The eye is the diode of your body. Your eye becomes the single axis. If your eye is single, sound, healthy, good, unclouded, then your body will be filled with light. The eye with which I see God is the same eye that God sees me through. Meister Eckhart. And one sight and one knowledge and one love. Also Meister Eckhart. Jesus the light offers us the light, offers us what he had and who he was, and he tells us again and again, you are the same as me. You can do what I do. I am the light, he says. You are the light, he says. Here is the light, he says. Here it is now, always now. Do you crave relief from suffering? The light in me sees the light in you. And when you see the light inside yourself, there is relief. Although you carry the cart behind you with the weights of life, the energy that flows through you becomes limitless and gives strength to bear the burdens. I've seen what suffering is. I've seen where it comes from. I know I've not said that before publicly, but I've tried a couple times to articulate it, and I'm going to try to say it again today. Okay, so after my near-death experience, I went on several mystical journeys, some of which will be covered in my next book. The one I want to talk about today happened at a moment of energetic release in my body. When I burst through the center of my forehead and was carried by my angel of light, the intelligence, and carried across the breadth and width and depth of the universe faster than the speed of light. And I could see all of the galaxies and all of the stars and all of the universe, both far and near at the same time. And I was carried at this incredible rate to the edge of the universe, to the beginning of the universe, to the beginning of the universe, where the light poured itself out into the darkness, and the light became the darkness in order to make the universe exist. The light had to reduces itself right here and right now, because it's always in the now. And the light itself was pulsing out the darkness. And I was held in a bubble of protection by the wings of the angels, say, metaphor. More like I was contained within an orb, a bubble of intelligence that was showing me the light itself, pouring itself from perfection into imperfection, from unlimitedness into limitedness, from immaterial into material, from unmatter into matter. In order for the universe to exist, all of it, including you and me, God had to reduce God's self, pour out the light into the darkness to make us, to make it all. Still present here, hidden within the darkness. And the darkness is not bad and it is not evil. It simply is the universe. Some might call that the darkness, Satan, the pouring out of darkness. I call this the universe. They might call it Satan because Satan is the king of darkness, the prince of darkness. And God calls this universe Jesus calls it the darkness. The Gospels call it the darkness. And the light pours into the darkness in order to make the darkness exist. And so the light is always present here. And that's what Jesus was trying to get us to see, that the light is always present in the darkness. It makes the darkness. And there cannot be existence in this universe without suffering, because everything consumes everything else in this universe, from bacteria to black holes, and everything in between. We consume to live. We consume to live. Even vegetarians, even vegans, everyone, everything. Everything with life consumes. Even things without life consume. Even things without life. The ocean consumes the rock. The hot rock consumes the ocean, makes an island. Everything pushes something aside to live. Suffering arises from this. Suffering arises from the necessity of the duality of the light and the darkness existing together here. I no longer ask, why is there suffering? I guess I accept suffering. I don't guess this. I accept suffering as a function of being alive. And rather than asking why there's genocide and sex trafficking and domestic violence and inhumanity from humanity, going back hundreds of thousands of years, of tribalism and racism and genocide, those terrible things, most of those are human-made because our hearts aren't attuned to the frequency of the divine. We choose to set ourselves ahead of God, and we stand in our own way in our relationship. The light doesn't eliminate the darkness here in the world, but it illuminates it. The connection on the inside to the divine brings the light to the outside world. And while it doesn't eliminate our burdens or our suffering, it gives us an eye to heaven where we can see the end of suffering and the presence of wholeness and healing. And we can pull down some of that into us. It doesn't necessarily stop the pain, but it fills the soul with the strength to bear the burden and to keep walking forward toward the end of our own days, when we will fall into the light, the perfection itself that pours itself out, creating the universe. The presence of God isn't absent here. It's merely hidden inside the darkness. And the burden that Jesus offers us is the light itself. My burden is light, he says. It's the light itself he offers us. And that light has never left here. That light is still here, present always. And every heart that turns to the openness of it, that turns and turns and turns again toward the light, is welcomed, is welcomed. I'm hoping that you move from belief to practice and pursuit, which brings experience of the presence to you. And when you can feel the presence in you, all things shift. All we have to do is open to it and keep opening to it again and again. It's not hard. It's easy. The burden is light itself. The burden is light itself. So welcome to Not Church, and thank you for being here this morning. I had still working on my technical flows, like where do I put my camera, and how do I set up my new stand, and how do I set up my computer. So I'm still plugging away at this. But please subscribe to my YouTube channel and follow my author page on Facebook. And thanks. And once again, I tip my hat to you. Thanks for listening. This is a new developing style of mystical ministry based in Christian language and the sayings of Jesus. But God is ineffable and has no form and is above religion and loves all of us and reaches to all of us and uses the tools available to us to reach to us. God is always personalized to us, giving us exactly what we need and the ways that we need it spiritually. Spiritually. So thanks for listening to this new style of ministry. I appreciate your support. May the light always feed you directly. And we're going to close with the chickadee again. And I'll see you next week. So that will end the stream. But I want to say hello to Russell and Ellen, Allie and Charles and Helen and Lee and Eric and Lois and Jeff. And I'll take a look at your questions in a second. Charles, and over here in YouTube, Logan, Karen, Charlie, Leah, Lisa, Wendy, Vicky, Susie, Catherine, Chuck, oh my God, Yahoo! Mary Berry, Charlie, Valerie, Colin, John. All right. So check. Oh my God, Yahoo! Sylvia, Laura, Colin. Hey, everybody. Let me look and see. I see some questions. Let me grab some of those for a second. Mary Laporte says, Peter, you transmit this presence. I can feel it as I look into your eyes. And so that, Mary, the the transmission of the presence itself is the message. Okay, so I'm trying to frame it in all these words, but really the more one clarifies one's inner self, the more one's lens becomes open to the presence itself, then the presence gets to speak for itself. It speaks for itself, and when it speaks for itself, it communicates itself directly from heart to heart and eyes to eyes and throat to ear. This is the thing. This is the thing. The message communicating itself through the presence and through the perception of your soul, seeing within yourself the same thing that's in me. So the light transmits itself and the light messages itself. The more we open to the presence, the more we practice and polishing our lenses. And so, yeah, I had a jump start with my near death. Okay, true. But the tools of the practice of contemplation, and which helps create mystics, they work. What you feel now from me is a result from my practice of getting out of the way. Okay, so when I say what you feel from me, I don't mean me. Okay, the light shows itself. I'm only getting out of the way. That's the thing of it. And over here in YouTube, hello from South Florida. Woohoo! Needed to hear this story. Amazing. The little bird was right on. Super. I love the chickadee and the crow in the background. The light is closer than air. The light is the air. The light is inside the air. The light is inside the oxygen and the whatever else is I can't tell you what's in air. I should have that memorized, but I don't. All of the molecules that create the air we breathe, inside of the molecules, inside of the quarks, inside of the subparticles that make up quarks, inside of the inside of the inside of the inside is the light. It's so close to us that as it pours itself into the darkness, it literally creates the matter itself. And so it pervades all things, all times, if we just look for it and open ourselves to it again and again and again. It's not a one-time thing. It can be. God can blast us with the inner experience of transportive mystical experience and open us wide and bring us into a vision of out of body into heaven, or an in body experience of an indwelling, or 10,000 other ways of doing it. That can happen. And the practice of inner work enables that, makes it, not enables, that's the wrong word. It creates the opportunity for that to happen. And it creates the opportunity for getting out of the way and opening the tap and opening both taps, the in tap and the out tap, so that there's this flow that comes through, that grows in the capacity inside the space. Your presentation yesterday was powerful. Thanks, Charlie. Um, Thank you for sharing it. Yeah, today, for those of you who are interested, Trisha Barker is running the third annual online summit. I spoke at it yesterday. It runs today too. If someone has the URL available, pop it up. But if you're on YouTube, search for Trisha Barker Live, and if you're on Facebook, search for Trisha Barker, and you'll find her, and you'll find the streams. 1,000 people have been attending. It's a 2-day series of near-death experiencers speaking, and people like um, Cherie Ami and David Dickinson, and others as well. Um, Also, maybe you needed the jump start. Others may be able to hear it without the jump start. Colin, you're true. True that. True that. I needed the jump start, but in my case, that wasn't true. I okay. So, uh, near-death experience was not the beginning of my mystical life. That was sort of foretold to me that it would come, and I'll be talking about that kind of stuff a little bit at a time over the next year. I've talked about it a little bit in some of the interviews. My mystical life previous to my near-death experience, but more to the point, I'm coming out with my fourth book, third book, third book. Coming out with my third book on that subject of mysticism and my life previous to my near death and after my near death experiences, and why and how God works with us and approaches us, each of us individually, and the way that we are able to accept why some people are born mystics, like people are born mathematical geniuses. That's an exaggeration. Okay, I'm no genius, but people who are have a brain that can do high level math end up as astrophysicists because their brain is built that way. And I think that there are brains and hearts that are built as mystical receptors. Why, maybe that's the reason why some people get mystical experience and others don't. But all I know is that I was born one. And I know that there are others who are born that way too. And that there are others who later in life are touched by the divine. Um, Thank you. You're welcome. Yes. All right. Anybody else before I close these things off? Again, my limitations. Yeah, the limitation is the body. Jeff says again, my only limitation is my body. Yeah, and but more particularly, the real limitation is the brain inside the body. This is the limiter. It's the one. It's the thing that gives us all the reception of our senses. It's our processor. It's our hard drive, and it's also connects to the cloud server. And so, even though we have this limitation of our body and our brain, we are also innately connected to the cloud server. And we can use our brains to open our hearts, to open all our chakras, to align ourselves with the holy when we seek the light itself, because we're already connected. The lamp already burns inside you. The light in me sees the light in you because there's light in you. Hey, Thas. Anyway, I should probably close this off and say, oh, that's a terrible thing. I'm never doing that again. I'm going to break this habit. This is not a symbol or a sign. I learned this is the letter F in American Sign Language. It also meant okay in the United States. I am trying to banish that from my hand because I know what the symbol represents. And so before I go, I'll go say this: that love is a divine experience and caring is an action into the world. So I can love my kids. I can love, 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 love them. But if I don't care for them, my love in the world has no value to them. If I ignore my crying baby, if I don't feed my children, if they're cold and I don't warm them, if they're lonesome and I don't comfort them, then I don't care for them. And my love has no value to them. That's true in the world as well. And so we carry the love into the world of our life. And I'm not even going to tell you what that sign means. You can look it up for yourself because I don't want to mention it. But I'm trying to banish that thing from my hand language as an act of caring and carrying the light into the world in my action, in my presence. And I want to make sure before I'm not gone yet. Um, I want to make sure people understand that near-death experiences do not come back perfect. Okay, we come back connected to the divine and the holy, and awakened and illuminated, but we are still in process. We are still in process. And you know what I did yesterday? I shook a guy's hand. Okay, I shook a guy's hand. I didn't. My social behavior. Oh, hello, nice to meet you. And before I knew it, I had his hand in mine, and both our faces fell. So, uh, imperfection in the darkness, part of the darkness, but also part of the light. Same as you. Anyway, okay sign does not actually not mean white power. That's an internet hoax. Maybe, but that's not what I read in the Boogaloo places. That's not what I read on Britbart. Um, anyway, hoax or no hoax, it's banished from my hand. Maybe it's a hoax. Maybe it's not a hoax. I don't care. I'm not going to feed the beast. I'm not going to feed the hoax. Just going to stop it. Peace and love, everybody. Peace and love. Peace and love.